The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. I'm Doug Loud, speaking for O&M Partners, and I want to welcome everyone to the Equity Metals Town Hall webinar. And thank you all for coming. Equity Metals trades under the symbols of EQM, EF on the OTCQB, and EQTY on the TSXV. For those of you who are new to these broadcasts, we'd like you to know that 7 years ago, back in 2014, O&M recognized the sea change in the non-deal investment marketing world. Suddenly, information was way more available to a whole new generation of people that couldn't be found in the key financial centers. Investors are receiving information at home that used to be geared and available only to professional investors in the money centers. But now we found a way with our digital methodology to bring it to this new audience. Now, there's a Q&A session after they talk. The questions in the Q&A are for everyone. And this broadcast hopefully will not only answer your questions, but maybe even some ones you didn't know to ask. I know that happens to me. The questions can easily be answered and asked by going to the question portal on the GoToWebinar site or by emailing us. Any questions that remain unanswered at the end, we'll follow up with in a timely manner after the call. For those who dialed in with just their phone, the only way you can hear the pre-recorded introductory presentation is on your computer speakers. So if that's not possible, you will be able to hear the main presentation after 7 or 8 minutes. So please stay tuned. Our introductory speaker today is Robert Keynes, the editor of Gold Silver Prose. Robert Keynes is the editor and publisher of goldsilverprose.com, and his premium subscriber digest emphasizes long-term cycle investing in the precious metals markets. He's also the author of the 2010 book, Drop Shadow, The Truth About the Economy. His work has also been featured on Yahoo Finance, MarketWatch, NASDAQ.com, and Seeking Alpha. Now, here's Robert. Thank you, Robert. That was really very interesting. Today, our presenters for Equity Metals are going to be Joseph Keynes, the Director and President, and Robert Mcdonald, Vice President of Exploration. These guys are really very experienced, and I just want to give you a touch of background on them. Mr. Keynes is a registered geologist and certified professional geologist with a BS in geology from Kent State University and an MS in geology from the University of Colorado. He has 40 years of experience in exploration for gold, silver, copper, molybdenum, lead, zinc, and uranium in the US, Canada, and abroad. He's also the president and director of Bravada Gold and Equity Metals Corporation, and previously of Homestake Resource Corporation. Mr. Keynes has also held previous executive positions and directorships with Fairmile Goldtech, Sierra Geothermal, and the Geological Society of Nevada, and the GSN Foundation. Today, we also are going to have with us Robert Mcdonald, the Vice President of Exploration. Mr. McDonald is the Vice President of Geological Services also for the Mannix Resource Group of companies, and in such capacity has been the exploration manager for several publicly listed companies. He has overseen the exploration for many projects throughout North America, including the discovery and delineation of the high-grade 1.2 million ounce Homestake Ridge gold silver deposit in northern British Columbia, and is currently advancing Southern Silver's 12 million ton Cerro Las Minitas silver, lead, and zinc project in Durango, Mexico. We should also note that over his career, he has focused on vein and intrusion related gold systems in VMS environments, which we were just hearing about. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science with honors from the Memorial University of Newfoundland in 1990s and earned an MS in Sciences from the University of British Columbia in 1999. So I believe we're going to start off with Joseph Keynes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, then, Doug. Okay, so what we're going to do today, this is our third presentation on O&M, and for those of you familiar names I'm seeing on the list here, I'm hoping that we can show you that we're doing the things that we intended to do and that we've made great progress. Basically, since our first presentation, we've doubled our market cap, increased our cash flow, or sorry, our price, share price, and also have a significant treasury. We've completed 2 rounds of drilling that have been quite successful, quite encouraging, and we are about ready to start our 3rd round of drilling coming up in about 2 weeks. So what I'm going to do here is give a brief overview for those of you that have not been on our shows before. I'm not sure why we're not showing the screen here.
Go down and put it in full slideshow mode. Up on the slideshow menu there. Yeah, right. Yep.
Do what? Turn that off? Oops.
No, you want to click at the menu at the top. Oops. The menu at the top, there was a slideshow option, and you just say go into slideshow mode. You could open that.
Looks like it deleted itself here, so take me a second to turn that back on. Sorry about that.
Let me know, Joe, when you're back up, and I'll give you a presenter.
Okay. Okay, that should be on there.
You see up at the top there, there's a slideshow option, menu option, just above the picture.
Up here?
Yeah. Yeah, over on your actual PowerPoint itself.
Mm-hmm.
It goes animate, transitions, animations, slideshow, review.
Okay. No, that's not.
No, go over to your left, and underneath the orange menu bar, there's another menu bar that says File, Home, Insert, Draw, Design. One of those says Slideshow.
Mm-hmm.
Pull down Slideshow,
Right. That's okay.
and it should say Start at Beginning over on the very far left from Beginning.
Yeah. I clicked that. Can you see that now?
I'm getting a little bit of a lag. Are you in full screen mode?
It says it's still
There
loading.
we go. We're full.
Yes,
Sorry about that.
the picture of the drill and in the woods, creating shareholder value through discovery. Now, oh, there's the lawyer statement. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of work our way through here. So I'll give some background for those that haven't attended other shows here. This is a slide of one of our drilling rigs at this property, and you can see it's it's pretty easy access. The information for the stock symbol EQTY on the TSX, and then the OTC QB symbol as well, and a photograph of some of our bonanza grade that we intersected during our first round of drilling late last year. So this is a property, and again, here's the little forward-looking statement. So we acquired actually management of this company in late 1990 or 2019, and over the last year we've made significant progress. Our thought was that the veins that were originally being focused for underground mining as a small mine was probably not the best way to handle the property. We thought that there was a lot more potential as significant veins related to a porphyry system, and there was a porphyry mineralization, especially a drill hole that was quite encouraging quite a few years ago. And at any rate, what we thought is that we could apply some of the knowledge that we got on our Homestake Ridge project as far as the zoning, the mineral geochemistry, and the alteration zoning to apply to this project. And so far we've been fairly successful. So, question is why invest now? So a little bit of information to know. We have backroom support from the Mannix group, take care of the accounting and that sort of thing, and allows Rob and I to really focus our effort on creating shareholder value through the discovery process. And you've probably seen those graphs where discovery is the first really big kick in value addedness to a project, kind of trails off as it goes into production, and then if production is done well, then the second phase of value generation occurs. So we really focus as the Mannix group in general on that first kick. So our guys are quite experienced in both these kind of deposits and then developing projects to increase value overall. So in 2020, we did 2 rounds of drilling. We're going to talk a little bit about the results. Basically, we only have the first round of drilling, that results of that first round of drilling. We plan on a second follow-up phase, which would be the 3rd round of drilling, starting in about 2 weeks. We're still waiting for a lot of assays. And we expect some good news flow over the next little while. We completed a financing. Our treasury is looking quite good right now. It's over $3 million. So we will have the money to do this round of drilling, as well as some additional funds to do follow-up drilling as well. So just as we were taking over the company and changing the name to Equity Metals, the previous group, New Nadina, started a resource estimate. We completed that. You can see there's a nice resource already started. That was certainly something that affected our decision to continue it. But what really kind of pushed us over is that with this kind of a nice start, we saw a lot of room for additional mineralization, and not only on the existing veins, but on some other targets on the project that we thought we could probably develop. So we think there's very good district-wide potential to discover additional resources of significant grade. So these are some of the results from our first round of drilling. Our early focus was on the number 3 vein. That's where most of the resource is. We are just now starting to get some of the results from that. This morning we put out these results. And there's some nice intercepts of, potentially underground mineable grades with some really high spikes of gold in particular in this area. The second target for us was the Camp vein, but really we got some spectacular results, particularly in silver. That photograph I showed you on the front has very coarse growths of ruby silver, which is very high grade. And as you can see here, 56,000 ppm gold equivalent. Most of that is silver. It's within actually a pretty nice zone. The shoulder samples around this, and including this, give a grade of about 1.4 kilos gold equivalent or silver equivalent. So pretty darn impressive. Just a little background, that's all from the Silver Queen project located here in the center of British Columbia. The Vancouver here for scale. The property is our main flagship project, and we also have a significant project called Monument and a minority interest in the WO project. Now those are both diamond projects. Diamonds have taken a recent bump up in price, which is encouraging, but generally this is something we're holding for future valuation and not trying to pursue at this point. We're maintaining a camp at Monument and basically keeping it on the shelf for the time being for better valuations. We also have a couple of other minority or minor assets as well, and we won't be really discussing those, except that they could produce some small amount of value relative to the majority value, which we see is the Silver Queen project. So Silver Queen, as I mentioned, is about the center part of British Columbia. There's a number of existing mines in the region, and I guess I should point out also that the reason that these diamond projects are potentially quite valuable is because they're very close to the Diavik and Ekati diamond mines. So as those are really running out of reserves, things like some of the mineralization that has been outlined on these diamond projects, there are a number of diamond-bearing kimberlites that have been tested with some drilling, and so that's quite encouraging. So on the back to Silver Queen, again the main flagship project, we're going to have Rob talk about some of the details, but there are a number of veins. There's a porphyry system found at depth in this area. There's a significant amount of underground workings, which are shown here in the green. And again, there's some past mine production from the number 3 vein, which is over here. There's been some drilling, historic drilling on the Camp vein over here, but it was too widespread to really understand how those intercepts connected, so it was difficult to justify putting into a 43-101 resource grade or resource category at this point. That was one of the reasons that we drilled a number of holes in the first round of drilling here, and with the success that we had there, we drilled even more holes in phase 2. So one of the things that we like to see in a project are, is this an area where we're going to be the Lone Ranger? And we don't want that, right? We want to have larger companies that might become either acquisition, people that would be interested in acquiring our asset, with discovery, or as potential partners. And as you can see here, Centerra, Imperial Minerals, Newmont, Teck. So we're in a good area for having quite a bit of interest in the project. You can see a little bit of the sort of the specifics about the property itself. It's a large area. It's quite quite extensive, as you can see here. The topography is quite gentle. Parts of British Columbia, our experience in the Golden Triangle with Homestake is everything's done with a helicopter. There's a camp and such. In this case, we do have a camp. It's pre-existing, but you can drive to this. There is a town nearby, so if the camp's not up, you can easily drive in, from the town of Houston. So the logistics are beautiful for this project. Like I said, we started with a resource that was from previous drilling. There's about 500,000 ounces of gold equivalent, and that's a good starting point, especially when you see the grades here. These are the gold equivalent grades of the indicated and inferred, and again, how many ounces are in those categories. So it's a polymetallic ore with credits for copper, gold, silver, zinc. So that's a good starting point. And at this point, what we'd like to show you is how we think that we're going to be able to expand this fairly quickly. And I'm going to turn this over to Rob for his input at this point. Rob, can you take over?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much, Joe. Thank a very good introduction and a good background on the project. Well, yes, carrying on from what Joe was discussing, I'll get into more of the exploration programs that we've conducted on the property in the latter part of 2020, as well as discuss some of our plans for future exploration or further exploration that we're looking at starting within the next week, maybe 10 days. We'll be mobilizing to the property and doing a drill program. So today, right now, we've completed 18 drill holes on the project, about 5,000 meters of drilling, large concentration of drilling in the Camp Vein area, where we've completed 13 holes, and then 5 holes have been completed on the number three vein. I'll be showing a couple of figures that will explain some of the drilling in both of these target areas. One of them will be a long section which runs from northwest to southeast of the Camp Vein, and then the other was going to be a cross section. And actually, I do have a long section of the number 3 vein, but also a cross section through the number 3 vein as well. And that orientation is going to be northeast to southwest. But the things that have attracted us to this project is the historic resources that have been identified on the project. Some that are not 43-101 compliant. That we feel gives us a leg up in expanding the resource quickly and aggressively. We've seen some super bonanza high-grade silver mineralization coming out of the Camp Vein from hole 10, which sits right there, and exceptional mineralization, 56,000 grams per ton silver equivalent. It sits within a broader 4-meter zone of 4,400 grams per ton silver equivalent, and so it's a very, very high grade and an attractive area to continue drilling, which is why we followed up our initial program with an additional 8 drill holes right in this area. On the Camp Vein, this is the longitudinal section going from southeast to northwest, and so we're looking looking westward on that, and it just shows the distribution of the drilling. The highlight hole, of course, was hole number 10, sitting down in here. We also had high-grade results from hole number 3, and these other dots, the various red and yellowish or orange dots, are a number of the historical holes, which all got pulled into this historic inferred reserve. And it's very high grade mineralization, not a tremendous amount, but still very, very high grade. They were never able to really bring this into a 43-101 resource. So what we're looking at is initial drilling that would connect the dots, literally connect the dots in this area, and then resource expansion at depth. And we've now tested about 80 meters beneath hole 10, about 150 meters below surface in total. We're testing this zone here, as well as doing an offset of another high-grade historic hole with our hole 17. So the bulk of these results are from the second phase of drilling. We've just released some of the latter results from our phase 1 drilling. We have 1 more hole in the Camp Vein and 2 more holes in the number 3 vein to return from the phase 1, and then we'll be getting additional assay results from the second phase of drilling, which was focused entirely on the Camp Vein, and a peripheral zone in the number 5 vein. In the number 3 vein, and again, we're seeing a cross section now through the vein. So this is the vein dipping back to the east. It strikes to the northwest, southeast. This is what it looks like on surface. It's essentially a heavy sulfide or massive sulfide vein that appears on surface, extends down dip for upwards of 350 meters. We have some of our first results from that drilling. It includes high-grade gold mineralization, both a hanging wall zone and the main vein in the hole 6. And then looking into the page, looking a little bit more to the northwest, we had also high-grade results from hole 5. Now, these were effectively verification holes. And the idea here was that we had never seen what the real mineralization looked like in drill hole in the number 3 vein. So we wanted to get some examples of that, drill right through the zone, get an idea of mineralization within the alteration halo. And what we've identified here in number 5, there's about a 15-meter zone of anomalous gold and silver mineralization that surround the higher grade intervals. There's a similar mineralized halo around hole number 6, and we anticipate seeing similar things in hole 7 and hole 8, which will be released in the coming weeks. So the main features that we want to get across with the Silver Queen project is that we have superior access and logistics in a very mature mining region surrounded by active exploration, and about 3 or 4 different projects were active this summer. We have major companies that are surrounding us, major deposits surrounding us, and so it's a very good place to work. We've got easy access to the area, and as a result, low exploration costs. We have an expanded exploration season further north in the Golden Triangle. It's quite a lot to do a winter program. Next week, we're starting mobilization on a 4,000-meter program that should be completed in February and March. We have a high-grade, high-margin mineral resource, extremely valuable mineralization. We just simply have to find more of it. And that's what we're in the process of doing it at least two different targets at this point, and looking in the spring and summer of expanding the number of targets that we will explore and test in an effort to double or possibly treble the mineral resource, the current mineral resource estimate. We have, we get a leg up as we have historical underground development that give us access to the mineralization. It's underground, about 9 kilometers of underground workings, and this will give underground access for infill drilling, bulk sampling, and all that other work that's required to de-risk the project that is then built into feasibility studies and then moving into mining of a project. And because of all of this infrastructure, because of the superior access and the logistics that we have in the project, we are looking at generally reduced costs for such work on the project. And again, surrounded by mid-tiers and majors, which can provide potential JV or acquisition opportunities, M&A opportunities. And so just a review of the people involved, you met Joe, myself, and then you have a number of people associated with the ManX group, including Larry Page, chairman and director. So again, a very seasoned group of explorers and mine developers that have been involved with major exploration projects and mine development projects throughout North America and in some cases the world. So why invest now? Experienced backroom, experienced geological team, very successful 2020 drill program, and we're about to start new drilling in 2021. We have bonanza grade mineralization that we're building off of in our most recent drilling and now and in the future. We have lots of assays pending, so we're getting good news flow over the next several months, as well as new drilling and new sampling as we move into the winter and then into the spring stages. An excellent basis for beginning, high grade mineral resource, high margin, high grade. And again, district-wide potential. There's about 20 different epithermal veins located on the property. We've really tested 3. We're about to test another zone as part of, or an additional zone as part of this upcoming program. And then in the spring and summer, we'll be looking at other opportunities with which to expand the scope of the project as we move forward. And then a review of some of the corporate information. Current share price at 23 cents. I think it's up a few cents today on our news that we put out earlier this morning. Market capitalization still relatively low at 16 million Canadian, 16, 17 million Canadian. See the shares outstanding, fully diluted, and then ownership. It's about 8%, 7-8% ownership with management and associates, and a similar amount held by some institutional shareholders that came in on the last equity raise that we conducted and we closed in December. Okay, yes, thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Well, now we get to play Q&A. I'll ask some of my favorites first. Hopefully some people out in the audience will text in some questions. I know you're in the depths of the wonderful world of British Columbia, but do you have any issues vis-a-vis ongoing permitting, First Nations, things like that, as you go further ahead with the drilling and find more interesting things?
I mean, at this point, no, we do not. We're still at okay, we have all of our permits in place with the local government. We have had some correspondence with the First Nations, and in this new year, we will start working with them on I guess further rights and benefits agreements with them. But at this point, there are no issues. As the project moves forward, what we would be discussing and what we're dealing with right now is, of course, exploration agreements and exploration access agreements, which we have in place with the local authorities. As we move forward, we would be looking at more development agreements and full-blown rights and benefits agreements. And so those are, you need those basically anywhere that you go these days, anywhere in North America, South America, Mexico. And so we'll be working on those as we move forward and continue developing the project, keeping the various stakeholders fully appraised of how we're advancing the project and what our plans are for ultimate development.
Great, that's very helpful. Let's see if we have some panelists who'd like to ask some questions. Victor Zhao, do you have any questions?
We should be able to hear you now, Victor. Victor, if you're having an audio issue, perhaps you could send your message in via the chat feature. Sorry about that.
Scott, meanwhile, do you have any texted in questions, Scott?
Well, I know Robert Keynes, our guest speaker, is on, and he had a question, so I'm going to unmute him. Robert, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Great. So I have a question based upon the drilling programs that you had done in 2020. Are you guys going to be updating your mineral estimate? I see in the presentation you have the 2019. Will you be updating that soon? And if so, will that also include any information about the increases in the price of copper and zinc?
Well, anytime we do an update, we use the 3-year trailing average. So, yeah, we would be updating somewhat the price. We're actively offsetting good mineralization. Part of our reason for going into the camp vein was to understand what should be able to be turned into a resource, and we're doing that. So that's successful. But really, before doing the next phase of a PEA, there's some open mineralization, and we'd like to see what sort of level of success we can have in following that mineralization. The camp vein in particular is of interest because ruby silver, from our previous experience in the Golden Triangle, often sits above much higher, particularly gold, but also copper and some of the other base metals. So what we may see underneath the camp vein may look a lot more like the number 3 vein. So, to answer your question, we're planning on doing this third phase of drilling, and then from there we'll make a decision on whether it's an appropriate time to update the PEA or to continue doing offset drilling on hopefully new mineralization.
Okay, thank you.
That's great. Scott, do you have any questions?
Yeah, got a few questions coming in from the audience. Thank you, audience. First one is, how many assays did you say are outstanding still from phase 2?
From phase 2, it's 1,400 assays. And we're still getting the last little bits from phase 1. The labs have been blocked up through the fall and through Christmas. They're just loosening up now. We still have maybe another 200 to 300, I guess, left to report after what we've issued now. Maybe about 300, 350 from phase 1, and there was 1,400 assays submitted for phase 2, or samples submitted for assay for phase 2.
Great, thank you. Follow-up to that is, do you foresee the delays in assays continuing into phase 3?
No, not at this time. In the last, I guess, 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, we've received about 5 different assay certs. They're starting to come fast and furious now, which is good. It allows us then to get ahead in our thinking, and particularly if maybe on the tail end of this particular project, or this particular phase of work, if you want to do any further drilling on the camp vein, we'll have those assays well in hand to make decisions as to whether we want to drill or do any further follow-up in the camp vein at the end of this current phase of drilling.
Thank you. And someone just asked, I know you answered this really early on, but maybe they missed it. What is the current cash position, and are you funded for phase 3 of the drilling that will take place in early 2021? And when you expect to raise capital again?
Yeah, we are funded for the next phase. That's about $1.5 million phase program. We have in the bank around $3.4 million, something like $1 million hard, and then also flow-through funds that we did recently. The next time we do financing will really depend on either, particularly, good market conditions, or when we get probably the 4th phase of drilling, I would guess at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a number of quite a few options that are in the money right now, so that could sort of drag out the time that we need to go start looking for money.
Great, thank you. The next question is, in your press release, you mentioned some shallow tests of the number 5 vein, and quoting, drilling tested up to 150 meters below surface, which has seen to date minimal drilling. Do your results mean that you will be doing more drilling and deeper drilling on that vein? I guess in the phase 3 plan.
Yeah. Certainly in the camp vein, we do have some, and the number 5 vein sits to the east, and so in our hole 17, which appears on that long section, we drilled into the number 5 vein, kept going, and then hit the camp vein deeper in the hole. We then did a very with our last hole, we simply steepened from the same site and did a short hole that just tested the number 5 vein. So we only have 2 holes in that right now. I would imagine that whether it be at the tail end of phase 3 or in a new phase of drilling in the early summer, early summer, that we would be testing or doing more drilling on both of those targets. The idea with the camp vein is to clearly to verify the existing historic reserve that was never brought into 43-101 compliant resource, as well as expanding that resource. And as Joe has said, continuing to test to depth to see if we can start getting gold mineralization. In the number 5, there's been some historical, very shallow holes into it. And we, of course, will want to drill deeper and see if we can, start putting together the potential of putting together resources on the number 5 vein as well.
Thank you. 2 questions here, kind of similar, so I'm going to read them both and maybe you can combine them. The past owner had explored how much of the land package, and are you re-exploring their previous results, or are you finding and have found new zones, veins? And the second one is, how much of the large land package have you explored? Do you have a good sense about what might exist on the property?
The previous workers, this project has been active since 1912. So there has been exploration on the Silver Queen, and particularly the area that we call the mine site and Mine Hill, which is where the number 3 vein basically traces through Mine Hill, and then to the west of Mine Hill is where the Camp vein occurs. That area has been explored for over 100 years. Other parts of the property, more recently, but in total there's around 500 drill holes on the project. Most of those are concentrated in and around the area of Mine Hill, a little bit to the east in the Coal Lake and George Lake areas, a little bit to the west in the Camp vein, a little bit to the south, testing the porphyry target that occurs to the south and southeast of the number 3 vein. That's where most of the drilling has been focused. And that's probably maybe a third of the larger property. The actual property package extends well to the south, and again, additionally out further to the east. So there's been a fair bit of work in about 1/3 of the property. Very, very little in the rest of the property. We've just completed a close-spaced magnetic survey over largely that third that has been explored, and now we've tied it in with some other historic data and have now done some targeting on maybe some targets further afield. So we not only have near-term resource expansion in the number 3 vein and the Camp vein, potential to develop new targets and resources in the number 5 vein and the George and the Coal Lake target areas, as well as some porphyry potential down to the south. But now we have some perfect greenfields targets, and we will be looking at these. I've been working with one of our key advisors in working up a program to do some early stage exploration on those targets a little bit further afield as well.
Just a little bit on, the previous workers, I think in general, have tended to look at the veins and said, well, okay, this is a base metal rich vein, this one has gold, this one has silver. Whereas we're looking at this as probably related to a large porphyry at depth. And because, as the fluids move away from that heat source, they change chemically. So for example, the Camp vein looks like it's a lot higher in the system before it was eroded than as you go east, which is a little bit more deeply eroded and possibly a little bit more deeply eroded to the west. So when you look at those veins in total on the project, there are a lot of targets there. So, what percentage of the ground has had a drill hole doesn't really reflect how well that drill hole, really evaluated that vein. So there's quite a bit of exciting exploration potential. Right now, our first phase as part of that answer to one of the questions is that, a lot of that is trying to understand the veins, confirm the veins, get an understanding of how variable they are. And because of that geometry, understanding that geometry, we had a pretty good idea what we wanted to do on the second phase. That second phase was really offsetting the spectacular intercepts that we had on the Camp vein. So that's all new exploration, even though there are a lot of drill holes above it. They did not drill into the areas where these holes occurred. We were waiting, and the reason we didn't do any drilling in part on the number 3 vein is we had no assays. So now we're getting the assays from that part of the system. That'll give us a lot better idea on how to follow up those holes, as well as follow up on some previous drilling where we didn't have access to earlier on. So lots of exploration yet.
Excellent. And that kind of ties into this next question. Is the geology that you're discovering similar or linked to any of the geologies of the other miners that are surrounding you?
Well, I think so. There's been some results of the Buck, which are, gold rich copper gold system. It looks to me, just kind of in not knowing a lot about the project, but from the assays that they report, that they're probably a little bit more deeply eroded than we are. And then farther to the northeast, there's another group that's announced things where the actual porphyry comes to the surface. So I think a lot of these porphyries are maybe more deeply eroded than we're fortunate to have on Silver Queen. I think we're quite high in the system here, and that's why we're getting these spectacular silver grades in parts of the system. There are large parts of the projection of the camp vein that are undercover. I mean, we just don't see what's there on the surface. There are a few drill holes here and there, but the way these veins kind of wiggle around, it's pretty, I mean, they're still basically unexplored. So lots of exploration potential even on the high grade camp vein.
Yeah, yes, most definitely. And just to go on from what Joe was saying, again, here's the regional map. The Buck property just produced some results, I guess just 2 weeks ago. The Fenton property, Copper Mountain was drilling that just in October, November. And in fact, the drill from Copper Mountain, or from the Fenton property, was the one that then moved back over and drilled on our project. Most of these projects, as Joe was saying, are more porphyry related, probably a bit deeper. We're located right on the edge of what's called the Machaco Plateau, which is shallower rocks, and so we're sort of in that transition in a similar fashion as the Silver Hope property, which is the old Equity silver mine as well. So it would seem that these two projects have maybe more showing more epithermal potential, although we do see some porphyry here, and then some of these other projects are more porphyry styled projects, including Tex and Centerra's and Imperial Metals projects.
Very interesting, thank you. A final question I have from the audience, unless somebody wants to send one in, is does the assays delay from phase 2 affect how and where you will drill in phase 3? Can you plan ahead without those assays?
Yes, I think we have been able to. I mean, the original idea with drilling the number 3 vein was to really just get some good tests right through the vein, so we knew what we were looking at effectively. And then we did some step outs from some not very aggressive step outs, but just some step outs, modest step outs from the historical drilling. And again, just giving us a little bit of comfort, because it is 350 meters down. So it was giving us a little bit of comfort that we were going to be able to track the vein. And so that largely became, we had confidence, at least visually, that we were doing that. And so we've laid out the program to be a little bit more aggressive as we move to the south and east along the projection of the North Vein. Here, I'll see if I've got a long section in here. I think I put it in that. Oh, come on. There it is. Yeah. Well, you can see on here, this is a long section of the NSR values of the number 3 vein. So this is effectively the distribution of the mineral resource that was identified on the property. This is the northwest. This is the southeast, and so we're looking to the east. So we drilled one hole that was again right in the wireframe. We stepped down about 150 meters. We had a very thin zone within a broad 42-meter wide zone anomalous alteration. So we have the sense that although we didn't catch grade in number 4, that we were getting a very, very broad zone of alteration, and that there continues to be exploration potential up in this part of this system. We then had number 6, drilled a little bit of a hole within the current resource, and we got some very, some good high grade results that we're very, very happy with. And now we're waiting on results from holes 7 and 8, which are down here. The main plan was that as we continued expansion, that we would drill this part of the system, and it's at depth and a little bit further to the southeast on the number 3 vein. And then that we might actually even get a chance to get a couple of holes into the NG3 vein as well, to see if we can start building that into a resource. So we will receive the balance of these results from 7 and 8, I would say within the next week to 10 days, and be able to put out a release within 2 weeks. But that has not impacted our drilling in the other parts of the number 3 vein for this upcoming program.
Thank you. Well, that's the questions from the audience. Doug, I'll turn it over to you.
This is really very interesting. It sounds like a silly question, but being an easily confused attorney, which project are you the most excited about?
Which target do you mean, or?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Rob, you've been on the ground most of the time. I could answer that, but I'll let you because you've been there.
Well, I suspect we probably have a similar answer. I mean, I like the reliability of the number 3 vein, that it seems that you can systematically step off it and build out resources. But I absolutely love the grade that you're getting with the camp vein, and you see the absolute potential to have again, very high margin, very high grade mineralization coming out of that camp system. There's geometry things that we have to put together, make sure that we get enough holes so that we could tie it together like we should. But I mean, that becomes very exciting when you're stepping off 56,000 grams silver. I mean, that's an incredible value. I guess you divide, what's that? Almost 200 ounces. Is that right? About 175 ounces.
That's a lot. I agree with you, and partially, I'm being biased by some of our experience at Homestake, where we saw that same sort of zoning of the ruby silver up high, almost no gold in places. I mean, there were places where we had, kilo gold assays and less than 300 ppb gold, or 0.3 grams gold, and not very far below that, getting much more impressive vein or vein values with gold, and we're kind of seeing that in the number 3 vein. Now, that doesn't mean that the zone and the width and the grade that we're going to get at below the camp vein is going to be exactly the same. If it's a bigger vein, I mean, it could be a lot bigger and a lot higher grade. So, that's yet to be discovered, but that's why discovery is so much fun, right? So,
right.
Right, and sorry, that's 1,800 ounces.
Ah.
In that, and it's only 30 centimeters, but that's a lot of silver packed into 30 centimeters.
Yeah, well, that's something we're seeing in all these veins, though, is that there's kind of a broader sort of mineable width of okay grade, but it's really, it's really getting sweetened by this relatively narrow in places where we've tested it, but very, very high grade. So, that's what goes to the mill.
So do you see your guy sells as a silver mine company with credits from lots of other metals, or how do you look at that, or is it too early to ask? They're kind of two different styles of veins right now. The camp vein may evolve into more golden rich, but right now
And you'll see in our news releases, we report things as both gold equivalents and silver equivalents. So when we're talking about the camp vein, we're talking in silver. When we're talking about the number 3 vein, we're generally talking about a gold equivalent, as gold is the more prominent precious metal, or the more prominent metal within the number 3 vein.
Yeah, plus there are significant credits for zinc and, you know, copper in places, and so polymetallic ore.
Very interesting. Well, if there aren't any more questions, gentlemen, do you have any final comments? One last thing you want us to be sure to remember for the rest of the day till we can buy some more shares?
Well, we're very excited, and I think we've demonstrated that you know, our initial thoughts on the project are coming true. You know, it does seem to be a much larger system than just a number of, you know, narrow veins with some grade in it. You know, there's a lot of exploration potential left, and that's exciting.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this first phase was really just getting our feet wet and just getting used to, you know, what we were seeing, and helping us to interpret how to move forward. We're now starting to see, you know, some more results coming out. We've got more leading us into February, and then, you know, with the new program, that'll give us additional results into the March and April timeframe as well. So we've got some excellent news flow coming up. We've shown some excellent news results to date. And so, yeah, we just want to keep going and keep building and keep growing, and hopefully have as many of you along with us as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, and good night.
Thank you.